I got an email about a week or so ago asking if I wanted to try out this paint sprayer. You know, I'm still a small guy, so I don't get a lot of people offering me some free tools, but at the same time, I don't take any tools that come with any type of stipulation. So I told them, yeah, I'd be glad to take a look at it, and that's been that. Haven't heard anything else from them, so this is going to be my first take. I'm just pulling this thing out of the box for the first time. It just so happened that I had left my other paint sprayer over at my daughter's house. She just bought her a new house and, you know, needs to get her some tools. So this will work great. That way I can have one, she can have one. This is very similar to my Wagner that has a separate pump. So I really like the spray guns like this that have a separate pump. That way you don't have this big head. One, it makes it where you can get into spaces a lot easier because you just have this hose rather than the big pump out here, and it's a lot lighter so it doesn't wear out very, you know, near about as quick. So I don't know what we got, about a 10-foot hose here. So that's usually pretty good for, you know, something like this. You know, my big house sprayer, you know, it's a 25-foot hose, but we're spraying big walls. So with this, you don't really need that because typically what I would use this for is more of an interior painting. So let me take a second, look over the book, see what we got here, and we'll check it out and see how well it works. Okay, so I've taken a few minutes and kind of looking over everything. So in the kit came with extra gaskets that go in the lid. Then this is the spout that comes out. They also have extra gaskets that go in below that. They do also have a lid, so if you don't finish what you're painting, you can stick your lid on the paint and come back in a couple of hours for your second coat. They have a drip cup, and now with the drip cup, what you typically do is you dip paint and then you time how long it takes for the paint to drip out, and that way you know if the paint is thin enough. So we're going to load up some paint. Also, it has a little cleaning brush, and then there was also this little pick here that is really nifty to clean out the holes in the system. So I really like that. It also came with 3 different tips. So it's got a, let's see what we have here. It's like a 1 millimeter, a 1.8, and a 2.6. So I went ahead and I put the 2.6 millimeter nozzle in here. And since I'm shooting some thicker paint, just like with any of them, if you have your nozzles going this way, the air comes out, so your fan pattern is going to be straight up and down. And then when you rotate it, it'll put your fan pattern this way. However, on this one, it says that you can put it at a 45-degree angle and that it'll give you a circular pattern. So I don't recall any of the other guns having that feature to go to the circular pattern. So I'm definitely kind of curious to try that out also. So let's go ahead and get some paint loaded up in here, and let's start spraying and see if this little gun will spray. All these video clips are going to be in real time, nothing is sped up. So this is the very first time I used this spray gun, and this little panel is about 4 foot wide, 7 foot tall. It only took just over 1 minute to spray it. This is the very first time I used the gun. You can see there to the right, there was just a little bit of overspray coming off. You know, I did this right in my shop. I'm 3-4 foot away from everything. And I really didn't get a whole lot of overspray, but it is a shop. You know, if I was in a house, I would have definitely put up some paper or some plastic, because there was a couple of times when I came off and I did get a little overspray on a couple of things. But overall, the overspray was not an issue. Now I have like I said, a very similar setup. And the pump on that setup actually has a, you know, variable power output. And now this one doesn't, it just puts out one power output. But if you're looking, the fan is almost perfect every time. So everything has been sized really good. And I'm wondering, okay, so what is the deal? Why does it have the drip cup? It didn't have it for latex. So I went and pulled back up the listing on Amazon. Well, one, I was really surprised at the price because I was expecting it to have been a lot more expensive than what it actually was. You know, the price of this gun was, and for the performance, is a really good value. But then it did have that same chart that was in the book, except for it had the water-based paints, which is your latex, you know, how to go down. So I said, well, let me try some thin stuff. So this is just polyacrylic, you know, it's real thin, and I put on the small tip and I sprayed it. This is just a piece of scrap wood that came out of the scrap pile, hadn't even sanded it. And I'm like, wow, that kind of came out good. So I grabbed a piece of birch, sanded that down, and said, well, let me see what, you know, a project would be. And as you see, this is real time. It's like 3 seconds, boom, boom. And man, that laid down almost a perfect, flawless finish. So I'm like, well, maybe the people are having problems because they're not wanting to thin the paint. You see this paint, it's a couple of years old. It's some exterior. And I mean, that stuff is like glops falling in the you know, little bucket there. So I was kind of wondering if that was going to pick up or not. And so I put it on and I said, no, let me just try it on this little piece of paper here. And, you know, it, you know, took a second for it to pick up. You got to make sure that your vent tubes are not clogged and you clean the gun after every time, and that your nozzles are not, you know, clogged up. And I think that may be what the problem with people have, because this, you know, the air does get a little hot. And, you know, if you see right here, you know, this is unthinned, you know, exterior enamel paint, and it's just laying it down perfect. You know, but if you let that nozzle get clogged up, or it will actually, you know, some of the paint will start drying as you're spraying it. You just take a little piece of paper towel in, because the paint's dry, it's not going to, you know, get all over the place, and just wipe it off. You know, just like right there. And I was trying, you know, the round pattern. I did the side to side pattern. I did the up to down pattern, because, you know, you don't want any tails. That's one way you know the gun's not set right, is you'll have like a little line behind, you know, or to the bottom of your fan pattern. Didn't have any issues. The fan pattern on this was great. This is that little piece of plywood after it dried. I couldn't find any imperfections whatsoever on the finish. I mean, it just laid it down perfect. You know, I'm super surprised at how well this thing done, especially, again, you know, for the price. I'm going to put a link down in the description, and I'm going to see if they give me a coupon code. If so, I'll put that down in the description too. So now with this little panel, there was, you know, I think 2 or 3 little boogers where I didn't wipe off that tip, and, you know, enough of the paint, you know, built up that it flew off and it got into the finish. You know, that's completely my fault, because it says on the instructions to wipe that off, and I didn't. And you see right there, that's one of those little boogers. But then on the second coat, I wiped them off, and this thing came out fantastic. So if you're looking for a good little paint gun, you know, I have no problem whatsoever recommending this thing. It worked great for me.